kind of frightening because it just all
Say mic check, mic check. Right now on the National Weather Desk, severe weather marks the long holiday weekend, from possible tornadoes in the south to damaging snow in Utah.
it was kind of frightening because it just all collapsed at once.
To flooding across northern California.
Normal road that they have to get to that residence is completely underwater. It's under about 4 to 5 feet of water.
The storm knocking out water and power for many.
Not having running water and no power, it's really taking a toll.
We'll take a closer look at the state of the ozone layer in the Earth's atmosphere.
Why is it that we don't hear about the ozone layer anymore? Is this no longer an issue?
And have tips to keep your kids safe when playing outdoors this winter.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
And a very good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Brian Vandegraff. Several states in the south are on alert for severe weather today as a system moves through the region. Yesterday, a possible tornado caused damage in Jesseville, Arkansas. As you can see, the winds knocked down several large trees. There's also damage at the local high school football field. Stands in the football field house also both sustained damage. Lights were also knocked down. Thankfully, thus far, no reports of any injuries. The storm also brought heavy rainfall, which led to flash flood warnings in parts of the state. This is Tucker Creek in Conway, which is about 45 miles northeast of Jesseville. The creek was running very high, but apparently did not flood area homes, so some good news there. The National Weather Desk storm chaser, Brett Adair, was in Shreveport, Louisiana, as storms rolled through last night. You can see all that lightning and heavy rains. Several roads were flooded. He also found a downed tree blocking a road. And earlier Monday, he was in Pelican when he witnessed significant rotation as the storm passed over I-49. So far, there is no confirmation that a tornado touched down, but there will be some surveys. Arkansas, along with parts of 5 other states from Kentucky to Texas, remain under a tornado watch this morning. The biggest threat remains portions of southeastern Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. You can see kind of here a list of all these highlighted areas, tornado watches, but also some dark reds because there are also some flash flooding because there have been some heavy rains. This whole complex moves east tomorrow, and that means a higher risk for portions of the panhandle of Florida, as well as portions of Georgia. We'll be keeping a close eye on it. Well, schools are closed in Sioux Falls, South Dakota today as more snow falls across the northern plains. Up to 13 inches of snow and even some ice could accumulate in the region. In fact, winter storm warnings are in effect until early tomorrow morning. Snow could fall this morning at rates of 1 to 2 inches per hour, and winds too could also be as strong as 40 miles per hour. In Utah, snow was the story throughout the holiday weekend. In fact, so much snow fell in the mountains, at least one big ski resort didn't even open Sunday or Monday. Thousands across the region lost power. Yesterday, heavy wet snow caused big problems all across the state. As Amanda Gilbert shows us, tree branches collapsed on cars, power lines, and roads across the Salt Lake City area.
People could see and hear tree branches falling in different Utah towns today. Crews raced to clean up branches on power lines, sidewalks, and roadways. Over in Sandy,
It was kind of frightening because it just all collapsed at once.
our Channel 2 employee Mike Stevens' carport collapsed. He and his son Christopher were there.
And while we were trying to shove the snow off with the broom, it totally collapsed on top of it.
Luckily, there was no cars underneath, since the Steven brothers didn't finish shoveling the driveway like Dad asked.
Since we completely forgot and were procrastinating, he wasn't able to park the car in there, and so I'd say that pretty much saved the car and the day.
Over in Midville, Caitlin Riddle wasn't so lucky.
That's my car. And there was no way of getting it out because the tree actually covered the back of the car.
Tree branches landed on her Nissan.
Freaked me out big time.
Luckily, there was no major damage. And she's not alone. People in Holiday, Midvale, Draper, and Sandy sent me various pictures of the mess in and near their yards.
And in California, the story is all about the rain. Lots and lots of rain. And for the third time since Christmas, an atmospheric river is going to bring even more precipitation. That'll likely happen late tonight into tomorrow. But all across the California, people are feeling the impacts of the weather from the entire weekend. In fact, in Santa Cruz, an active landslide blocked the highway. Cleanup was expected to last several days. The heavy rain also created a sinkhole in Santa Cruz. Traffic was backed up after mudslides blocked several highways. And in San Francisco, the 101 freeway was shut down in both directions. The city by the bay received nearly 5.5 inches of rain in just a mere 24 hours. That is the second wettest day since records began being kept. Now, several people had to be rescued from floodwaters. Lacey Mitri is in Elk Grove, California, with that story.
Flooding turned this Elk Grove home into more of an island.
I just kept watching the water raise, and my pump wasn't keeping up with it. And then by like 8 o'clock, my generator was underwater, everything. And
This is where Dan Achondo's mother and father-in-law live. He and his wife live right next door on higher ground. When the water here still hadn't gone down today, they decided to get help.
because there's more rain coming, and talking to the firemen, they're like, hey, the ground's saturated now, so it's not going to sink as much as it did before, and better be safe than sorry.
Especially considering Achondo's father-in-law is disabled, the Cosumnes Fire Department said.
Should they have some type of medical emergency, it's going to take time to get them out. So just getting them out early before anything happens is the best option.
Crews brought in a boat to help get the couple out of the house safely.
They have a pond in the back, which is overflooded by Deer Creek. So the normal road that they have to get to that residence is completely underwater. It's under about 4 to 5 feet of water.
They made a few trips to get other necessities like medications, a hospital bed, and a wheelchair to dry land and into the house nearby where they'll be staying for the time being with family until it's safe to return home.
And to Reno, Nevada, where it was a brutal weekend for residents, snow and frigid temperatures caused power outages for nearly 70,000 homes. Crews have been working around the clock to restore power to the nearly 10,000 that are still in the dark. And as Ben Marget reports, residents are doing what they can to stay warm.
This generator, powering a space heater, is the only thing keeping Jorge Venegas' home somewhat livable.
Not having running water and no power, it's really taking a toll on us.
His house is on a well, so this is their water source right now.
We have to go get water from out and bring it in for flushing, for washing dishes.
He's one of tens of thousands in the dark for 3 days now, making do with wood-burning stoves.
And just worry about the neighbors who are more at risk, who don't have a wood stove, who are more dependent on their electricity.
And generators, like this couple whose home dropped to a bitter 47 degrees.
Virtually all of our lines have been damaged in some way.
NV Energy representatives say at the peak there were over 1,000 individual outages, all caused by the weather, mostly due to that heavy, wet snow.
Those trees, when they got weighed down with the very heavy snow that we've had over the past couple of days, they broke. They went into our lines and they damaged the lines.
Murray says they've deployed every resource available to restore power as soon as possible, even bringing in crews from southern and eastern Nevada.
So we were prepared. We actually had additional crews that were on call for that period, but to reemphasize, we were expecting predominantly a rain event. And when it came in as snow, and certainly the size of the outage, we definitely did not anticipate the size of the outage.
A pass is no longer needed to visit Sanibel Island in Florida, and that should make it easier for people helping to rebuild after Hurricane Ian to get to and from job sites. But residents also worry it could also attract unwanted visitors. Sarah Metz reports.
After months of re-entry passes and checkpoints,
You needed a pass, yeah.
the island is open, but not necessarily for business.
Earlier there was. I noticed it has picked up a little bit too. So there's a lot of people coming down and checking it out.
Which is exactly what city leaders do not want. They're still encouraging visitors to give islanders space and allow people the time to rebuild. Harold Mullen says that's why he set up his beach chair off island.
We didn't want to cram anything up because I know people have gone through a lot down here, and we just don't want to be in the way of anything.
Well, no outages in the Midwest and East unless you consider a lack of winter weather to be somewhat of an outage. Many cities will break high temperature records today. South Bend, Indiana will be about 25 to 30 degrees above normal. Baltimore's high will also top the 60s over the next couple of days. Coming up on the National Weather Desk, you may have heard about a hole in the ozone layer. We're going to talk with an expert about how the hole has gotten smaller over the last 40 years. And everyone loves a good snow day, but how do you keep your kids safe when enjoying the outdoors? We'll show you when we come right back.
Hi, everyone. Meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. More wet weather is moving into the picture, and overall, it's a pretty active stretch here. Here we are this afternoon, 1 o'clock. We have wet weather for a large portion of the Northeast. Temperatures are in the 30s, 40s, and even near 50 degrees. There'll be a defined break Wednesday morning, and another round of wet weather moves in during the afternoon Wednesday. Here comes some more rainfall here. With colder air working in from north to south, I mean, look at this. Teens over northern Maine to near 60 in New York. There'll be a wintry mix in northern New England.
I'm meteorologist Jasmine Lomax with a look at the mid-Atlantic region. A warm front will continue to lift north, but it could lead to areas of showers across the region as we head into the afternoon. Rain will be on the lighter side, gradually tapering into the night. But on Wednesday, we get ready for the next weather maker, a cold front that could lead to areas of storms. By the afternoon, temperatures will be above average, mainly in the 50s and 60s. Then overnight, temperatures will start to cool down.
Hi, meteorologist Jennifer Collins here with a look at your southeast forecast. Warm temperatures stick around heading into Tuesday. We'll see afternoon highs ranging into the low 80s in South Florida, in the upper 60s, low 70s for the rest of the southeast. And we're tracking a cold front that'll bring the threat for strong to even isolated severe storms to parts of east of the Mississippi River Valley. That includes areas of Alabama, eventually into Georgia and the Carolinas Tuesday into Wednesday. And then the front moves into South Florida by Thursday.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Well, our younger viewers may not even remember this, but back in the 80s, I recall, the big environmental concern was the growing hole in the ozone layer over Antarctica. Well, over the past 40 years, huge progress has been made, and Emily Gracie recently spoke to a scientist at NASA to find out the current state of the ozone layer is and how this progress is giving hope to the current climate crisis.
The hole in the ozone layer is caused by human-produced compounds, specifically chlorofluorocarbon. We kind of knew they weren't good for our ozone layer. Our ozone layer screens us from ultraviolet radiation. So back in 1987, the nations of the world agreed to an agreement called the Montreal Protocol. The Montreal Protocol controls the production and consumption of these CFCs and halons. And so by the mid-1990s, we could see that CFCs, which were growing like mad, had stopped growing, and actually by the mid-1990s, we saw them turn over.
So why is it that we don't hear about the ozone layer anymore? Is this no longer an issue? Is there still a hole in the ozone layer, I should say?
There is still a hole in the ozone layer, yes. The projection is that the ozone hole will finally be gone around the year 2070 or so, so it's going to take another half century for the ozone hole to go away, but it's slowly getting better. And in fact, if chlorofluorocarbons had kept going up, it would have destroyed the ozone layer. The surface would become uninhabitable. Even plants would have been killed off.
What are the parallels here with the climate crisis?
I think the most important part is that every nation on the earth has signed the Montreal Protocol controlling these ozone depleting gases. The second element is that when the Montreal Protocol was first agreed to, people didn't quite know how to replace all these different uses. Scientists and engineers would go out and they would invent solutions, and they did. And in fact, almost every gas you can imagine, which was ozone depleting, has been replaced now. It's a good story. Every nation on earth agreed, and technologies were found to replace the things that we have. So I'm an optimist. I believe that solutions can be found. Now, it's not going to be easy, but we're all adults. We deal with the tough stuff, right?
For a longer version of this interview, you can head over to our YouTube page. Just search the National Weather Desk and be sure you subscribe. Well, when you hear of the winter weather dangers, you often think of slick roads, freezing temperatures, and heavy snow. But there are other dangers to be aware of. And as Jonathan May in Bozeman, Montana explains, if you live near a river or other waterway, ice jams can also be a major concern.
You can see how dangerous and devastating ice jams can be. It shut down Lions Park in Ennis a year ago.
That one in Ennis, that happens almost every year. It closes that park. I would say most years that happens. It's pretty common there. And yeah, it can certainly cause damage.
And on December 8th, Valley Garden Fishing Access Site northeast of Ennis closed temporarily due to flooding. Ice jams on portions of the upper Madison River caused water, ice, and debris to flow into the site, making it unsafe for visitors.
Ice can get insanely thick. And so then when it breaks up, it can overflow and hit buildings and cars and all sorts of stuff.
Here's an ice jam on the Bitterroot River. But frozen rivers like this can be seen across the Treasure State every winter. Data shows 80% of ice jams occur between January and March. The most ice jams ever recorded in a single season was 75 in 1996.
They normally are caused by a prolonged period of cold temperatures, and usually to get a significant ice jamming event, we need below zero temperatures for several days, particularly on the bigger rivers where they tend to cause the most problems.
Experts say if you live close to a river, they encourage you to store extra drinking water since floods can compromise local water systems, and people should be prepared to move valuable items to a safer location.
As we head into the dead of winter, one thing to keep in mind is safety on the road. Now, if you're planning to travel in winter weather, meteorologist Rhonda Shelby in Portland, Oregon has more advice on how you should prepare.
As you venture out this winter into winter storms or up through the mountains, really important to be as prepared as you possibly can be. Here's some important safety tips for you. First of all, first thing you should really do right away is check your forecast right before you travel. Make sure your gas tank is full, check your tire pressure, let someone know your route and arrival time, and make sure you're also packing an emergency supply kit. Just avoid travel if you don't feel comfortable driving in snow or ice. And if you're stranded, make sure you remain in your vehicle. This is a great winter supply checklist, especially for people going on long trips where you're going to encounter snow. Batteries, blankets, an extra car battery if you can get a hold of one, a cat litter for traction, first aid kit, flashlight, extra gas if you can do that too, extra tire, phone charger, especially one that's independent of your car, and you've got your phone cord with you, rope, sandbags if you can get that as well, and definitely some kinds of snacks or water. This is all very important if that emergency happens to you.
And if you're not traveling in winter weather and staying home and enjoying a snow day, something a lot of folks enjoy, especially true for kids. Snowball fights, sledding, and building snowmen are just a few of the ways to get out and have some fun. And for some tips to keep kids safe when enjoying the outdoors, we turn to Asheville, North Carolina, and meteorologist Megan Danahy.
First on the list is comfort in the cold.
So if you go outside and you're wearing 2 layers of clothing and you're comfortable, then put 3 layers on your child. That's always a good rule of thumb.
Hats and gloves are required.
If they layer up and they have periodic checks and they're coming in and having warm liquids to drink, then generally your child would be safe.
Frost nip can make the nose, fingers, or toes red and tingly. That means it's time for a break to warm them up.
Frostbite is more significant in that it causes actual damage to the skin, and so you'll see a yellow, gray color. It's waxy. Oftentimes it's very numb, and that's dangerous.
Frostbite and hypothermia can go hand in hand. Clothing must stay dry.
Wet clothes will make this situation even more dangerous, and so if they're coming in and they're wet and cold, then they're more likely to sustain hypothermia.
Something we might not think about in the winter months is next on our safety list: sunscreen.
So, you know, there's a reflection on the snow and the ice, and so we oftentimes get sunburns in the wintertime.
In the winter season, head injuries are common.
You know how we always tell people you've got to wear a helmet when you ride a bike. Well, that's also the case with skiing and sledding.
A helmet for everyone is a must.
And people are starting to do campfires and bonfires, and so as a result, we're seeing fire injury and burns.
Practice smart fire safety and have an extinguisher nearby. Check batteries in your smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors.
Just last week, I had a child who had been seen in the emergency room for carbon monoxide poisoning.
Finally, let's look back at our layers and warm winter wear.
Children, particularly infants and toddlers, have these fun little hats that have straps, and you just need to be very mindful of the fact that sometimes those straps are a danger, be it just wearing them in the car seat and they're playing and twisting around or running outside. So you just need to be very careful about what strings and straps are attached to your winter clothing.
And as we had to break some snowy scenes in Utah from above, take a look.
Well, a very good Tuesday. We are dealing with a little bit of a wide range. You swing up to Bismarck, 16. Upper Great Lakes dealing with cold temps around freezing. Sioux City, Minneapolis, they're seeing some snow. Then you swing on over to southern Wisconsin, into Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, well above normal. Mid-60s through the Ohio River Valley. We're seeing a little bit of rain holding on as well. We're going to keep rain and snow chances moving through the Great Lakes into your Tuesday night and Wednesday as well.
Good morning to you. I'm meteorologist Chris Succi. Look at our forecast today across the region, starting off with some showers and thunderstorms, especially across Louisiana, a little bit of Arkansas, southeast Texas. Heavy weather risk will be shifting east through the day. Still could get a heavier storm into Louisiana this afternoon. Otherwise, it's just a little bit cooler. And then a chilly start to Wednesday. A lot of sunshine, highs 50s, 60s to 70s for the day Wednesday.
Good morning. I'm meteorologist Rebecca Stevenson. Here's what's happening across the west. Temperatures continuing to stay quite chilly, especially in the inland west, where we've got plenty of snow coming down in the mountains from a tracking storm system moving into the Midwest as we get through the course of the day. Now, we're going to see a new storm system track inland, bringing a lot of rain once again to California, where we have flood watches for the Central Valley, and the mountain snow is bringing an avalanche warning to Utah. That's the scene from here.
Now let's check to see the weather in cities from across the country today. We'll start things off in Cadillac, Michigan, where morning showers will become steady rain in the afternoon with record high temperatures expected in the mid-30s. Moving over to Syracuse, New York, where periods of rain are once again expected with temperatures in the upper 40s. And take a look at this in Rhode Island, where about a half an inch of rain is expected, but with temperatures mild in the low 50s. Not too much to complain about there. We'll end things off in Chattanooga, Tennessee, where they'll see isolated thunderstorms this morning and then mainly cloudy afternoon skies. Temperatures near 70 degrees in Chattanooga. We love highlighting the content we get from our team of over 200 meteorologists. Another favorite part of the program is showcasing the awesome images we get from viewers like you from across the nation. Like this great photo sent to us of the mountains near Bristol, Virginia, just after a heavy rain. Love that picture. And this stunning photo of a sunrise set behind a lighthouse near Providence, Rhode Island. And this close-up of a moose is a fantastic shot taken in Maine. The photo was sent to us by a wildlife photographer, and the photo is what's called trap photography, where a stationary camera is triggered when an animal moves into the position. And thank you for joining us. Tomorrow on the National Weather Desk, we'll take a look at how recent weather is impacting maple trees. I'm meteorologist Brian Vandergraff. Make it a great Tuesday, and we'll see you back here again tomorrow.